swear I never got my information right. So in 2009, the clutch seems to be having some issues. It's not the actual clutch from what the customer assumed, but it seems to be clutch pressure issues. So the pedal isn't retracting back up, it's just staying to the floor. All right, so his clutch here, for those who don't know, these are rare now. You got the brake, accelerator pedal, and the clutch is here on the left. So with this, when you apply the clutch, it just goes to the floor. So I gotta figure out what's up with that, what's causing that. The first thing I'm gonna do is attack the fluid, and I'm gonna pull the intake, the air intake off, and we can get a better view of what's happening. Looking at everything, this doesn't have a reservoir separate from the brake system, so the clutch master cylinder receives the fluid from the brake reservoir, so it doesn't have its own separate clutch master cylinder reservoir. So the first thing I would do is check the brake fluid, make sure we have adequate brake fluid, and go from there. Looking inside of here, it looks really low. So the first thing I'm going to do is obvious, top off the brake fluid and see if the issue corrects. It's really dirty. It's pretty low in here. I know I should have put the strainer in there, but cycled a few more times again. The pedal's always hit the floor. So I'm just gonna crack that line again, place it, check the brake fluid. It is going down. I'm gonna keep on doing this a couple times until the pedal start to show signs of pressure. Now I could take my one-man bleeder and try this, but for a couple reasons, this is faster, and two, I don't feel like, well, same first reason, I don't feel like getting all the other supplies out to use any other options with bleeding at the moment when I do have other mechanical abilities. So I'm gonna try this, keep on trying this until the pressure starts building up by hand. And again, the pedal is all the way down, so I've rapidly depressed it and released for about 10, 12, 15 times and let it fall all the way to the floor. Come out here, crack the valve, replace it, then repeat the process until it starts to show signs of pressure. It's the third time. Crack it again, replace it. I'm gonna leave it open right now. I'm gonna fill this brake fluid up, see if it'll make a difference. Another key element is to go, obviously, is check the interior of the car when we look at the pressure, check under the transmission, because this clutch slave cylinder seems to be internal. And I'm pretty sure it's done that way to save space. But if you don't see any fluid leaking like around the rear main seal area, then you probably don't have a leak inside of there. I have not checked that yet, but my first option is to go ahead and bleed the system first, being that the brake fluid was obviously low. It's likely, being that this fluid is really black, never been changed, and the pads wore down to the point where the brake fluid continued to wear or diminish, and at some point in time they probably develop air and lost pedal pressure. So this is the fourth time. Let me go ahead and apply the pedal rapidly again, and we'll watch the fluid drop. It's leaking from the slave cylinder up there, so that's not good. And there's all our brake fluid. All right, I got the okay to pull the clutch. Labor time was supposed to be 8 hours if you do the clutch, and probably like 7 hours if you wind up pulling the motor. So I got a little bit of deliberating to do it myself. I'm considering taking the easiest route possible, which is definitely a thing. I'm thinking there's a lot of space between the frame of the vehicle and the subframe. So I'm thinking if I get all this stuff off on my right here, or the car's left, I might be able to take all the accessories off, pull the transmission, and get, as long as I can get 6 inches worth of space, it's about like that, I can work. I can pull that clutch, do what I need to do, and I don't have to pull all this other stuff out. Looks possible. Well, let me get it jacked up, let me get it carpooled in, get my little area cleaned up here, and I'm gonna evaluate things once I get the tire off. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I have all this space here, as if I can get the necessary clearance I need just to pull the transmission down and out through the wheel well, just enough to be able to access the clutch. I want to try this method first, and if I need to drop the subframe probably like another half to a whole inch, I should be able to do so, and that should be able to give me even more clearance. So I'm going to pull the transmission as if I'm doing the transmission, of course, pull the transmission out, but I'm going to like take the axles out, and starter, disconnect the battery, all that type bullshit. So we'll go over it. It's something. This is very, very basic. This is nothing, I don't want to say complicated, because it's not like it's an automatic transmission. I'm gonna try to take off the least amount of stuff as possible. So, but first off, we're gonna work on pulling this axle out. I'm gonna make this general. Unfortunately, I did break a stud there. I'm gonna replace that. I wanna make this very general. So we're gonna pull the CV axles. Same is gonna apply to the other side. Remove the C-clip here. I'll remove the ABS sensor. I'm going to take these bolts off. That goes to the upper spindle, connects to the strut here, and I should be able to lean everything forward and have a little more room and lift up on the spindle. My bad, you don't have to remove the lower ball joint. So Can't remember everything. I got the downpipe from the exhaust loosened. Those were 5/8. There's 3 of them. The lower bell housing for the transmission, those were 15 millimeter, and I just got the exhaust hanger. Those are 13. Now the only difference with the passenger over the driver's side CV axle is going to be the carrier bearing. And if you see those, bam, those 2 right there, 1, 2, those are going to be your, that's going to be your cover holding the carrier bearing in there. This is going to look like this little plate. I just pulled the axle out since the plan is to only take the transmission out partially. So we're going to leave that out like this and carry on with the removal of the bell housing. So everything, I got the fluid drained also. That was a hex. What size is it? Hold on. Oh, here we go, right here. I'll tell you what. It's a hex bit, but unfortunately it's Harbor Freight, so the markings are gone. Sorry. But like I said, it's gonna be general anyway. So now I'm gonna work on getting everything removed from the top. I definitely gonna remove the plastic. Might remove the sensors. When more likely I probably will remove them for the reverse. And that should be the starter signal for the neutral switch, or the safety switch for starting. So I'm gonna remove everything that I see up here. It's very basic doing a manual over automatic. It's not complicated. More than likely, I'm gonna remove the connectors for the starter down here. I'll move the starter just for weight purposes, but you can just disconnect it seems, but I need as much space as possible. I'm gonna take that off. There's a ground strap at the bottom also underneath the transmission. All right, let's get to it. So I got the transmission out, and I got just real quick for my light die, I got the subframe bolts in the back, driver's side, front, and the passenger side front out. The rear right is tight, and I had enough clearance to get the transmission partially through the wheel well here. Now the sensor that was here, I think it's reverse, that's out. I got a rag in there. It would probably be a good idea to take this one out. I think that's a safety switch to start it up, just in case you hit the frame and break it. But I got the metal retaining brackets for the shift cable out, and pretty much it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting the slave cylinder out. I have room to get the clutch out and get the clutch alignment tool in there. So this can be done with the transmission, with the subframe still intact. Those subframe bolts were literally taken out. I also took off the, shit, my light keep dying. I also took off the bleeder valve here, 10 millimeter. Also the junction block down at the bottom, that's 10 millimeter also to the frame. The motor mount, the transmission anchor mount right here. And so I have more room clearance. And it just takes some finagling to get around and to get it to hold. So it can be done. I'll update the next part when I get it back in there, because I do have parts on the way. The guy just happened to pay up front, so I just jumped right on this immediately. But in case anyone's doing this, it can be done with the subframe still in the car. Assume that you're not replacing the transmission. I'm just replacing the clutch and the slave cylinder because it's obviously leaking. Let me pull it out. 10 millimeter bolts out, and I can simply just slide this right on out. We got the slave cylinder. So again, I'm black. I'm lazy. I'm not gonna go through all that work pulling this whole subframe out. You can kiss my ass on that one. But enough with the stereotypes. But it can be done. Just clean the bell housing. Of course, I'm gonna do that and replace this clutch. And I'm gonna add this clutch is at the part store $720 for the clutch set. So it'll come with a clutch and a new slave cylinder. At least it should. But this one is obvious. It's leaking. So here we go, right there. All the fluid's coming out of there. So we're getting a new one. It's out. It took about, I want to say, if I had to do it again, it probably would take like 2.5 hours. So I don't think there's anything additional I need to add. I do have zip ties holding some of the components, so they won't. There's some of those are plastic, so don't bend those, break those. I do have a ratchet strap holding the transmission, and that's it. That's additional. That's all I'm gonna add on here. Motor didn't have to come out. I thought I was gonna do that. Refused to do it only because it's too much stuff I gotta, fluids and stuff I gotta remove. And if I gotta pull that motor, I'm gonna do a lot more stuff. See, could have did the subframe option, but again, we're not replacing the transmission, just replacing the slave cylinder and clutch. Tools needed: 18, 21, 15, 10 millimeter, and a 13. And there was some special sockets to get that sensor out. I'm not sure which one it is, but there's only 2 sensors on here. So one of them's going to be the neutral, and the other one's going to be the neutral safety switch, and the other one's going to be the reverse light. So I'm not sure which one I pulled out. Didn't look at the diagram, but again, it can be done. All right, so on to the next one.